My wife Victoria stood on the tarmac of her private jet, champagne glass raised, laughing as she told me there wasn't room for me on the flight to Monaco. Her friends were already aboard, giggling at my humiliation like it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. "Sorry, babe," she called down with that fake sympathy she'd perfected over the years. "The jet's at capacity. You'll have to catch a commercial flight. Maybe try Southwest." They all erupted in laughter as the cabin door sealed shut. Victoria thought she was leaving me stranded at the airport with no way home, no dignity, just another embarrassing story she could tell at her next country club brunch. What she didn't know was that I'd already booked a first-class ticket to Paris. And the email she received 10 minutes into her flight would make her realize she just made the biggest mistake of her life. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt underestimated or cast aside, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below telling me about a time someone underestimated you and how you proved them wrong. And smash that like button because this story is about to get absolutely wild. My name is Nathan Cross. I'm 46 years old and until 3 months ago, I thought I was living the dream. My wife Victoria ran a successful tech consulting firm called Apex Strategic Solutions. She'd built it from nothing in over 12 years. It had grown into a company worth $75 million. I was proud of her. Hell, I was in awe of her. Victoria was brilliant, driven, the kind of woman who could walk into a boardroom and command respect just by being there. We met at a charity auction 14 years ago. I was working as a financial analyst for a mid-sized investment firm. Nothing flashy, but stable work that paid well. Victoria was already making waves in the tech world, consulting for Fortune 500 companies on digital transformation strategies. She wore this emerald green dress that night, and when she laughed at one of my jokes about hedge fund managers, I knew I was done for. Our wedding was featured in Boston Magazine. Victoria looked like royalty in her custom Monique Lhuillier gown, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. We honeymooned in Bali, spent 2 weeks on private beaches planning our future together. She wanted to grow her company and I wanted to support that dream however I could. So, when Victoria suggested I leave my job to help manage Apex's financial operations, I didn't hesitate. It made sense at the time. The company was growing fast and having someone she trusted handling the books would free her up to focus on clients and strategy. For the first few years, everything was perfect. I managed accounts, handled payroll, negotiated with vendors, and streamlined operations. Victoria closed deals, expanded into new markets, and built a reputation as one of the most innovative consultants in the industry. We were a team, or so I thought. We lived in a restored brownstone in Beacon Hill, the kind of place that made other successful couples jealous. Victoria hosted quarterly dinner parties for her top clients, events that cost more than most people's monthly salaries. I played my role perfectly, the supportive husband who made sure everyone's wine glass stayed full and conversations flowed smoothly. But somewhere around year 8, things started changing. Victoria's success reached a level where I was no longer necessary to the business operations. She hired a CFO, brought in department heads, built an executive team that made my role redundant. I became the owner's husband instead of a value team member. She never said it directly, but I could feel the shift. The way she'd talk over me in meetings, the way she'd make decisions without consulting me, the way her eyes would glaze over when I offered suggestions. The real change came about a year ago. Victoria started traveling more, taking weekend trips with her executive team, attending conferences that always seemed to exclude spouses. She'd come home exhausted, distracted, barely interested in our life together. When I tried to talk to her about it, she'd wave me off with explanations about the pressure of running a company, about how I couldn't possibly understand the weight of her responsibilities. Then came the subtle cruelties, little comments about how I didn't contribute to the business anymore, how I was living off her success, how lucky I was to have such a generous wife. Her friends started treating me differently, too, like I was Victoria's accessory rather than her partner. At dinner parties, they'd ask Victoria about her latest deals and innovations, then turn to me with forced smiles and ask how I was keeping busy. The implication was clear. I was the trophy husband, the kept man, the guy who'd married up and was riding his wife's coattails. I tried not to let it bother me. After all, Victoria had built something incredible and I was genuinely proud of her achievements. If my ego needed to take a back seat to her success, I could handle that. But the contempt kept growing. The way she'd introduced me at events changed from, "This is my husband Nathan. He manages our financial operations," to, "This is Nathan, my husband. Just Nathan." Like that's all I was. The breaking point came 3 months ago. Victoria announced she was taking her top executives and their spouses to Monaco for a week-long retreat. Private jet, 5-star hotels, yacht excursions, the works. A reward for their hard work and loyalty. I helped plan the whole thing, coordinated with the travel agency, arranged the accommodations, even picked out the wine selection for the jet. Then, 2 days before departure, Victoria casually mentioned that I wouldn't be joining them. "Why not?" I asked, genuinely confused. I'd been looking forward to the trip, had already packed my bags. Victoria didn't even look up from her laptop. "The jet has limited capacity, Nathan. We need the space for people who actually contribute to the company's success." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Victoria, I'm your husband. And they're my business partners, the people who've built this company. You understand, right?" I didn't understand, not at all. But I nodded anyway, too stunned to argue. Victoria seemed satisfied with my compliance, and went back to typing. The conversation was over as far as she was concerned. That night, lying in our bed while Victoria slept peacefully beside me, I made a decision. I wasn't going to play the humiliated husband anymore. If Victoria wanted to treat me like I was worthless, she was about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating people. I spent the next 2 days making phone calls, sending emails, and putting together a plan. See, Victoria might have forgotten, but I'd spent 8 years managing Apex's finances. I knew every contract, every client relationship, every business secret the company held. More importantly, I knew something Victoria had overlooked in her rush to sideline me. I still had signing authority on all the company accounts. Victoria had never bothered to remove my access because I'd always been so trustworthy, so compliant, so utterly beneath her notice. The morning of the Monaco trip, I woke up early and transferred myself a very specific amount of money from one of Apex's operational accounts. Not enough to the company, but enough to cause serious problems. $3 million, the exact amount Victoria needed for her biggest client project launching next week. A project that required upfront capital for server infrastructure, software licensing, and team deployment. Without that money, the entire deal would collapse, costing Victoria not just the contract, but her reputation. I didn't steal it. Technically, I was still an employee of Apex Strategic Solutions. I transferred it to a personal account I'd opened years ago, one Victoria didn't know about because she'd stopped paying attention to our joint financial planning. The transfer was legal, defensible, and perfectly timed. Then I did something that would really get under her skin. I called Gregory Patterson, Victoria's biggest business rival. Gregory ran a competing consulting firm called Paramount Digital Group, and he'd been trying to poach Victoria's top clients for years. He was also surprisingly sympathetic when I explained my situation over coffee the previous week. "Nathan," Gregory had said, leaning forward with genuine concern, "I've heard things about how Victoria treats you. That's no way to treat a spouse, especially one who helped build what she has. I'm done being invisible," I told him. "And I think I might have some information that could benefit both of us." Gregory smiled. "I'm listening." So, on the morning Victoria was set to leave for Monaco, I sent Gregory a detailed proposal. I'd consult for Paramount Digital Group, bringing with me my knowledge of Apex's client, strategies, pricing structures, and upcoming project plans. Nothing illegal, nothing that violated any actual NDAs I'd signed, just the kind of insider knowledge that would give Gregory a massive competitive advantage. In return, Gregory would pay me a consulting fee of $500,000 and equity in Paramount. He agreed immediately. The airport was chaos when I arrived. Victoria's jet was parked on the private terminal tarmac, and her executive team was already boarding with their spouses. Everyone was dressed in designer casual wear, expensive sunglasses, carrying Louis Vuitton luggage. They looked like they were heading to a fashion shoot rather than a business retreat. Victoria saw me approaching and frowned. "Nathan, what are you doing here?" "I came to say goodbye," I said pleasantly. "And to bring you the updated financial reports you wanted." I handed her a folder containing absolutely nothing important, just busy work I'd created as an excuse to be there. She barely glanced at it. "You didn't have to come all the way to the airport for this. I wanted to see you off. It's a big trip." Victoria's friend Cassandra, the VP of sales, leaned out of the jet doorway. "Vicky, we're waiting. The pilot wants to take off on schedule." Victoria waved at her, then turned back to me with an expression of annoyance. "Nathan, you need to go. We're about to leave." "Actually," I said slowly, "I was hoping there might be room for me on the flight." "I know you said capacity was limited," but Victoria's laugh cut me off. Sharp, dismissive, designed to humiliate. Several of her executives heard it and turned to watch. "Nathan, we talked about this. The jet is full. There's no room. I could sit in the cockpit area, or Nathan," Victoria's voice turned hard. "You're embarrassing yourself. The answer is no. Go home." Cassandra was laughing now, too, along with James Chin, the company's chief technology officer. They were all watching the show, watching Victoria put her husband in his place. I could see the pity in some of their eyes, the amusement in others. "I understand," I said quietly. "Have a great trip." Victoria was already turning away, already dismissing me completely. She climbed the jet stairs without looking back, champagne glass in hand, laughing about something Cassandra was saying. The cabin door sealed shut, and through the windows I could see them all settling into their luxury seats, toasting each other with expensive champagne. I stood on the tarmac for a moment, watching the jet taxi toward the runway. Then I pulled out my phone and opened my airline app. My first-class ticket to Paris was already booked, departing in 2 hours. Gregory Patterson had business connections in Paris who were very interested in meeting with me. While Victoria was playing corporate queen in Monaco, I'd be in Paris securing deals that would fundamentally undermine everything she'd built. But first, I needed to make sure Victoria understood exactly what was happening. I opened my email and sent her a message with the subject line, "Regarding your Monaco trip." "Victoria," I wrote, "I hope you enjoy Monaco. While you're there, you might want to check the Apex operational account. You'll notice $3 million is missing. Don't worry. I didn't steal it. I transferred it to myself as compensation for 8 years of undervalued contributions to your company. Consider it my severance package. Also, you should know that I've accepted a consulting position with Paramount Digital Group starting immediately. Gregory Patterson sends his regards. Have a wonderful trip. Nathan." I hit send and checked my watch. Victoria's jet would be at cruising altitude in about 10 minutes. Just enough time for her to get comfortable, to start celebrating her success with her team, before my email destroyed her entire week. I grabbed my carry-on bag and headed to the main terminal. My flight to Paris was boarding soon, and I had a first-class seat waiting. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. The international terminal was bustling with travelers, but the first-class lounge was quiet, sophisticated. I settled into a leather armchair with a glass of excellent bourbon and opened my laptop. Gregory had sent over some preliminary materials for our meetings in Paris, including detailed analyses of Victoria's biggest clients and their pain points. This was going to be easier than I thought. My phone started buzzing about 15 minutes later. "Victoria." I let it go to voicemail. Then a text came through. "Nathan, call me right now." I ignored it. Another text. "This isn't funny. Where is the money?" I took a sip of bourbon and continued reading Gregory's files. The texts kept coming. By the time they announced boarding for my flight, Victoria had sent me 23 messages, each one more frantic than the last. She'd clearly read my email, checked the account, and realized I wasn't bluffing. The panic in her messages was delicious. Nathan, please. We can talk about this. I'm sorry about the jet. Just tell me where the money is. You can't do this to me. I have a project launch next week. Answer your phone. Nathan, I'm begging you. Please don't do this. I boarded my flight, settled into my first-class seat, and ordered another bourbon. The flight attendant was attentive, professional, making sure I had everything I needed. As we took off, I finally responded to Victoria's barrage of messages with a single text. Enjoying the jet? I'm enjoying my bourbon. See you when I see you. Then I turned off my phone and reclined my seat. The next 7 hours were blissfully peaceful. No Victoria, no demands, no contempt. Just good food, better drinks, and the satisfaction of knowing that back in her private jet, my wife was having a complete meltdown. Paris was magnificent. Gregory's contacts met me at Charles de Gaulle Airport with a car service, and by late afternoon, I was checked into the Four Seasons Hotel George V. My room had a view of the Eiffel Tower, and Gregory had arranged dinner at Le Cinq, one of the finest restaurants in the city. Over perfectly prepared duck and a wine that cost more than most people's car payments, I laid out everything I knew about Apex's operations. Victoria's been courting Aldridge Pharmaceuticals for 6 months, I explained to Gregory's Paris-based partner, Philippe Rousseau. They're looking to overhaul their entire digital infrastructure. Contracts worth $40 million over 3 years. Victoria's been pitching them on a proprietary system integration strategy. Philippe nodded, taking notes. And you know the details of this strategy? I helped develop it, I said simply. I know every weakness in Victoria's proposal, every place where she's overestimating capabilities or underestimating costs. More importantly, I know what Aldridge's CEO really cares about, which isn't what Victoria's been focusing on. Gregory smiled across the table. Nathan, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful partnership. We spent 3 days in Paris. Gregory flew in from Boston, and together we mapped out a comprehensive strategy to undercut Apex's major client relationships. We weren't doing anything illegal. We weren't stealing trade secrets or violating contracts. We were simply using the knowledge I'd accumulated over 8 years to position Paramount as a better option. Strategic intelligence, Gregory called it. I called it payback. During those 3 days, Victoria sent me 155 messages. I counted them. Each one was a journey through the 5 stages of grief. Denial. This is obviously a mistake. You never actually betray me like this. Anger. You're a pathetic, vindictive bastard. I'll destroy you for this. Bargaining. Please, Nathan. I'm sorry. Just tell me what you want. Depression. You've ruined everything I built. I hope you're happy. Acceptance never came. Victoria was stuck somewhere between anger and bargaining, her messages cycling through threats and desperate pleas. I responded to exactly one message 3 days into my Paris trip. Victoria, you told me I didn't contribute to the company's success. I'm simply proving you wrong. Enjoy Monaco. The fallout was spectacular. Victoria had to cancel her Monaco trip after 2 days, flying back to Boston in a panic to deal with the missing funds and the rumors that I'd joined Paramount. Her executive team was confused, her clients were nervous, and her reputation for having everything under control was crumbling. Cassandra, the VP of sales who'd laughed at me on the tarmac, quit within a week. She'd apparently been considering leaving anyway, and my defection to Paramount gave her the perfect excuse. She took 2 other executives with her, all of them landing at competing firms. The missing $3 million became a major problem. Victoria tried to explain to her board that it was a temporary cash flow issue, that her husband had made an unauthorized transfer that would be reversed immediately. But I'd been careful about the legality of my transfer. I had documentation showing that I'd been listed as a company officer with signing authority. Victoria's lawyers couldn't prove I'd done anything criminal because technically I hadn't. It was a civil matter at best, and a complicated one that would take months to resolve. Meanwhile, the project Victoria needed that money for started falling apart. The client, a major healthcare system, got nervous about Apex's financial stability, and started taking meetings with other consulting firms. Paramount submitted a proposal based on the intelligence I'd provided, and it was exactly what the client wanted. They awarded the contract to Gregory within 3 weeks. When I finally returned to Boston 10 days after leaving, Victoria was waiting for me at our brownstone. She looked terrible, exhausted, her usually perfect makeup smudged, her designer clothes wrinkled. The house was a mess, like she hadn't been taking care of anything while I was gone. "Nathan," she said when I walked in, and her voice cracked. "We need to talk." I set down my luggage and looked at my wife, really looked at her. "About what?" "About everything, about us, about the company, about what you've done." "What I've done?" I kept my voice calm. "Victoria, I haven't done anything you didn't teach me to do. You showed me exactly how to prioritize business over relationships, how to put success ahead of loyalty, how to treat people as disposable when they don't serve your immediate needs." She flinched. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? You left me stranded at an airport, Victoria. You've humiliated me in front of your entire executive team. You told me I didn't contribute to your success. I'm simply taking you at your word." Victoria sank onto the couch, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked small. "I was wrong. I was horrible to you, and I'm sorry. Please, Nathan. We can fix this. Just tell me what you want." I thought about that question for a long moment. What did I want? A year ago, I would have wanted Victoria to appreciate me, to see me as an equal partner again. But that ship had sailed. She'd shown me who she really was, and I believed her. "I want a divorce," I said simply. "And I want half of everything we built together. The house, the investments, and yes, half of Apex Strategic Solutions." Victoria's face went white. "You can't be serious." "Completely serious. I helped build that company for 8 years. Massachusetts is an equitable distribution state. I'm entitled to half of all marital assets, including your business. Nathan, that will destroy Apex. The company can't handle that kind of restructuring right now." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you left me on the tarmac." The divorce proceedings took 6 months. Victoria fought me on every single point, but the numbers didn't lie. I had documentation of my contributions to Apex, years of financial records showing my involvement in the company's growth. Her lawyers tried to argue that I'd forfeited my claims by joining a competitor, but my lawyers countered that I'd only done so after Victoria had effectively forced me out of the company and humiliated me publicly. In the end, the settlement was exactly what I'd hoped for. I got the brownstone, half of our investment portfolio, and a substantial cash payment representing my stake in Apex. Victoria had to take out a massive loan to buy me out, putting significant financial strain on the company. She also had to sign a non-compete agreement limiting her ability to go after Paramount's clients for 3 years. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was watching Victoria realize that she'd destroyed her own success by underestimating the one person who knew all her secrets. Gregory offered me a full partnership at Paramount, and within a year we'd poached 3 of Apex's biggest clients. Victoria's company didn't collapse, but it never recovered its momentum. She'd spent so much energy building her reputation as an innovative leader that watching it crumble was especially painful. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Cassandra at a business conference. She was working for a startup now, looking happier than I'd ever seen her at Apex. "Nathan," she said, approaching me during a networking break, "I owe you an apology. I was terrible to you on that tarmac." "We all were." "Water under the bridge," I said. "No, seriously. Victoria created this culture where anyone who wasn't directly advancing her agenda was invisible. I'm ashamed I went along with it." "What made you leave?" Cassandra smiled sadly. "Watching you walk away with your dignity intact while Victoria lost hers completely. It made me realize I didn't want to work for someone who treats people that way. I still think about that morning at the airport sometimes. The moment Victoria told me there was no room for me on her jet, laughing like my humiliation was entertainment for her friends. She thought she was putting me in my place, reminding me of my irrelevance. Instead, she set in motion the chain of events that would cost her everything she valued. The brownstone I got in the divorce is quieter now, more peaceful. I had it completely redecorated, removing every trace of Victoria's presence. The dinner parties I host now are smaller, more intimate, filled with people who appreciate honesty over status. I'm dating again, carefully this time, looking for someone who values partnership over power. Gregory and I built Paramount into a major player in the tech consulting world. We're not as big as Apex was at its peak, but we're growing steadily, built on a foundation of mutual respect rather than ego. I make sure to treat every employee, from the C-suite to the interns, with the same consideration. I learned that lesson the expensive way. Victoria tried to contact me a few months ago. She wanted to apologize, to explain that the pressure of running the company had made her lose perspective. I listened politely, then wished her well, and ended the call. Some bridges, once burned, don't need to be rebuilt. The last I heard, Apex was downsizing. Victoria had to lay off a third of her workforce and move out of the prestigious downtown office space into something more modest. Her reputation in the industry never recovered from the scandal of her husband defecting to a competitor, especially once people learned the circumstances that drove me away. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in my home office looking out at Boston Harbor, planning Paramount's expansion into European markets. That trip to Paris opened doors I never expected. Philippe Rousseau became a close friend and business partner. We're opening a Paris office next year, and I'll be spending significant time there, building relationships, closing deals, living a life I never imagined when I was playing the supportive husband role. The irony isn't lost on me. Victoria worked so hard to prove I was worthless, to show her team that I was dead weight she'd been carrying. In doing so, she motivated me to prove exactly the opposite. I wasn't worthless. I was underutilized. There's a difference. Sometimes people ask me if I feel guilty about what happened to Apex. The honest answer is no. Victoria built that company on talent and ambition, but also on contempt for anyone she deemed beneath her notice. That foundation was always going to crack eventually. I just happened to be the catalyst. The $3 million I took? I donated half of it to charities supporting domestic violence survivors and people rebuilding their lives after divorce. The other half I invested in Paramount. Best investment I ever made. My advice to anyone in a similar situation is this: don't let anyone make you feel invisible. Don't let success in one person justify cruelty toward you. And if someone treats you as disposable, believe them and plan accordingly. I spent too many years accepting Victoria's narrative about my value. The moment I stopped accepting it and started proving my own worth was the moment everything changed. Victoria left me stranded at an airport, laughing as she flew away in her private jet. She thought she was teaching me a lesson about my place in her world. Instead, she taught me that I didn't belong in her world at all. I belonged somewhere better. Somewhere I was valued. Somewhere I could build something meaningful on my own terms. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something better while your enemies watch their empire crumble. Victoria wanted to prove I was nothing without her. I proved she was nothing without the people she'd spent years taking for granted. And that truth is worth more than all the private jets and Monaco retreats in the